Hello everyone and welcome to Life Begins at 20. My name is Mark and today we have the next instalment of Inside the Cube. If you missed the introduction to the series, there will be a card on the screen now and a link in the description below. In this episode we're going to be diving into the fourth of our archetypes, which is known as Super Ramp. We will take a look at what the archetype is, how it works, why it's effective, plus the anchor cards for it and how to support it in your cube. Just before we get into the video, I'd like to thank the sponsors of my cube content, the Mana Base. For those who don't know who they are, they're a website of fellow Magic the Gathering content creators like myself, bringing you contents from all formats. Definitely do check them out over at themanabase.com, as I'm sure you'll enjoy what you see. Back to the episode, and I'm really excited to bring you one of the great archetypes in Cube, and hopefully this will help give you a better understanding of the archetype itself in Cube construction and even gameplay if you weren't so sure about it. So let's get stuck in. The colour green and ramp have been synonymous with each other in Magic's history. The name originally came from the card Rampant Growth, which was first released back in 6th edition. While a traditional green ramp deck's main aim is to get a big creature on the board as early as possible, the Super Ramp archetype's main goal is to take this one step further and almost functions as a combo deck in a way, as it ignores what the opponent is doing to get a really big, typically 8+ mana creature like the Eldrazi trio in as soon as possible. Around turn 5 would be aimed for. A well-drafted Super Ramp deck would be able to keep up with the average Reanimator deck in terms of getting that game-ending threat into play. Through the use of spells, creatures and mana rocks, the archetype will generate a lot of mana very quickly, with the ultimate goal of being able to hardcast a huge game-ending creature or X-cost spell that'll find you one to do exactly the same thing. This archetype can be played in slightly different ways depending on the cards you manage to draft, either as a mid-range deck where you play a slightly longer game utilising more mana ramp based creatures to get there, or a pure combo deck where you completely ignore the opponent and get as much mana as quickly as possible in the hope that when your finisher comes into play, it does the job before your opponent can. The biggest threats to a Super Ramp deck would be the Reanimator archetype if they can get their creature into play before you. Same goes for the Fatty Cheat archetype. A control deck utilising Winter Orb would definitely slow you down significantly. And lastly, a Wildfire/Land Destruction deck would put an end to your plans quite quickly. In terms of the Super Ramp archetype, a typical deck will contain the following two things: mana ramping spells and creatures in order to get you to the desired amount for the other thing you'll need, which will be huge heavily costed threats to win you the game. For the mana ramp spells, they come in all shapes and sizes. You have creatures like Birds of Paradise, Ruffalus, Llanowar Emissary, Oracle of Moldiah and Primeval Titan, and each of these have their benefits. Traditional mana ramp creatures, like Birds of Paradise, definitely give you a steady stream of extra ramp on a body, with Ruffalus being the strongest of these as the game develops. Oracle is great at extending your hand and allows you to play more of the land cards you draw each turn, and has nice utility, extending your hand to the top of the library too. Primeval Titan is just a great body that is a perfect mid-game ramp target. Its 6/6 trample body for 6 is strong and ramps you with its enter the battlefield or attack trigger so that you are ready for that game-ending target on your next turn. Mana rocks play a key part to really get you even more value for your mana, with the likes of Thran Dynamo, Golden Lotus and Everflowing Chalice. Each of these do exactly what you want them to, allowing you to ramp even more, especially when you can spend 4 mana on Thran Dynamo and use it straight away for even more ramp, therefore only costing you 1 mana this turn for a huge ramp benefit on the next one. The benefit of Chalice is that you get to pump it up as much as you'd like with the mana that you've got initially to make it as strong as you need. It's a perfect card for any stage of the game. Lastly, traditional mana ramp spells like Rampant Growth, Mirari's Wake and Channel are available to us as well. Rampant Growth is your traditional green mana ramp spell, allowing you to find lands from your library and putting it into play tapped, ready to be used on your next turn, where hopefully you'll be ahead of the curve against your opponent. Mirari's Wake, like other similar spells, allow each of the lands you tap to generate even more mana, getting those bigger threats online faster. Channel is just a great spell, which may not be everyone's cup of tea, but it really does get the job done. Like Reanimate, you're paying life to get a target into play early. Depending on the board state and life totals, this play could well be game winning. Moving on to the ramp targets, and there are two distinct areas we're going to look at here, either game-ending creatures or spells that'll do the same thing for us. For the creatures, I'm sure many will be included in typical cubes to support other archetypes like Reanimator or Show and Tell or Tinker targets. The Eldrazi trio are solid targets, along with Dragonlord Ataka, World Spy Worm, Avenger of Zendikar and so on. I'm sure you'll have plenty of cards in your cube able to be great ramp targets to be cast ahead of schedule. Moving on to the spells, and we have cards like Tooth and Nail, Natural Order and Entreat of Angels to get the game ending job done for us. Tooth and Nail, realistically you'll be wanting to cast for 9 to find and put 2 big threats from your library into play, unless you have the creatures in hand already. Natural Order gives your mana ramp creatures something to do once they've served their purpose, and cards like Entreat of Angels allow you to plough in as much mana as you can to really put the clock on your opponent. As you can see from this selection of cards, I'm sure you've managed to pick up that the main colour required for this archetype is green, although with the wider variety of finishes, the supporting colours are all 5. For these cards, I'll be talking about unpowered and powered cubes for the anchor cards, but we'll give a larger list of supporting cards that will give options to peasant and pauper cubes too. So for the powered and unpowered players, if you see cards in this list that won't get into your cube, please don't worry. I'm not saying that all of them should go in at every power level. Like I mentioned a moment ago, the primary colour you'll need for the Super Ramp archetype is green, as this is the colour with access to all of the spells and creatures you will need to support it. The supporting colours are all 5, as each have distinct threats or cards that would work incredibly well with the high amount of mana available. As for the main anchor cards for this archetype, we have a few cards that will get the job done for us. Rofilos Llanowar Emissary is a really solid card, and don't be surprised if it gets removed as soon as it's hit the board. This guy is the best of the mana ramp options we have, as he'll only get stronger as the game goes on. Definitely shouldn't be difficult to get him tapping for 3+ mana each time. Like I mentioned a little earlier in the video, Primeval Titan is the perfect card for this archetype, as it's exactly what we're trying to do. Not only is he a good target to get into play early via casting or another method, being a 6/6 body with trample, but he also allows us to ramp even more whenever he enters the battlefield or attacks, giving us 2 more lands into play tapped each time. This play allows it to be followed up by an Eldrazi next turn, which is definitely a potential game ender. Natural Order is another perfect card for this archetype. If you end up playing a lot of mana dorks in your build, this will allow you to utilise them even after their ramp is no longer necessary. Swapping a 1-cost dork for a Primeval Titan, Avenger of Zendikar or World Spy Worm, sign me up! Gaia's Cradle is the last of the cards I feel can do a great job in this archetype. More often than not, you'll be drafting a deck that will end up having creatures in it, and this adds so much benefit to that. Depending on your late game targets, it has the potential to ramp for even more. Hardcasting an Avenger of Zendikar with 7 lands in play, for example, would mean that next turn Gaia's Cradle taps for all 8. It's got the potential to be a really strong card, and more often than not it will provide use for you, although there will be the time against a control matchup or a Wrath of God style decks that may well reduce its use, but let's be fair, there is or should be an answer to everything in Cube. As for the supporting cards for this archetype, there are plenty to choose from. In the form of Planeswalkers, we have Garruk Wildspeaker and Nissa Worldwaker as the main 2 that do everything we need. Both of their +1 abilities allow us to untap lands to be able to spend the mana again to get even more from it. Another ramp spell, Mana Rock and so on played each turn? Yes please. Both of these are able to protect themselves, with Garruk creating 3/3 Beast and Nissa being able to turn lands into a 4/4 Trampler, which is fantastic. Both of their ultimates are easily in reach, especially Garruk's only being 1 more than his initial loyalty cost. His may well not be as game ending by itself, but it will certainly make a big impact, while Nissa's may well be. Depending on how early you can get her out and the number of lands left in your library, worst case you'll have all of your lands in play, so the following turns you can cast whatever you like, no matter the size. Moving on to the creatures, and we look at a variety here. There are a lot of traditional mana ramp creatures like Birds of Paradise, Llanowar Elves, Arbor Elf, Lotus Cobra, Sakura Tribe Elder, Rishkar Pima Renegade and so on, which will do everything we need in creature form. I won't name all of them, but you get the picture of what is certainly useful to have. The next set are those utility creatures that enable the archetype to work correctly when building a deck. Oracle of Moldiah and Mina and Den Wildborn all allow you to play extra lands each turn, plus give other benefits on top. Omnath, Locus of Mana, is a fun card that means that you can utilise your mana more effectively and pump him up for a combat step and use it afterwards. Tireless Tracker certainly lets you gain card advantage from the vast amount of mana ramp, and a way to use it later on in the game to get card advantage and pump him up into a really strong creature. Cards like Duskwatch Recruiter are fantastic to allow you to tutor out the huge creatures from your deck, which can't be underestimated. Lastly, Selvala, Hearts of the Wild, is another card that gives us not only a huge amount of ramp later in the game, but you'll end up getting some card draw from her later on as well. There are loads of great ramp spells, which I won't name all of, but the typical ones you'll find are Rampant Growth, Kodama's Reach, Cultivate, Explosive Vegetation, Nissa's Renewal, and so on. In terms of mana rocks, again there are plenty to choose from that help us. Everflowing Chalice, Mind Stone, Chromatic Lantern, Thran Dynamo, Worn Power Stone, and so many more. Moving slightly away from traditional ramp spells, we have utility spells that help overall. Channel, which is very, very good. Awakening Zone, which is just great to get a little bit of extra every single turn. Dictate of Karametra, Heartbeat of Spring, Mirari's Wake, and Mana Flare all give you the option to tap your mana for even more. Burgeoning is great because it allows you to put a land down whenever your opponents do. Plus Oath of Nissa, which is a really, really solid card, not only for ramp, but also tutoring. Plus, it would allow you to play a channel for multiple colour planeswalkers on turn 2, which sounds pretty good to me. Primal Command lastly helps us to tutor out these creatures, along with so many other options. As for the game enders, there are loads of fatties that many of us will have inside our cubes, but great targets for this deck would include Kozilek, Butcher of Truth, Ulamog the Ceaseless Hunger, either of the Emrakuls, Avenger of Zendikar, World Spine Worm, Dragonlord Ataka, and so many more. I'm sure you'll get the gist of what we're looking for here. The final part are those big game-ending spells, including X-Cost with the likes of Tooth and Nail, Decree of Justice, Entreat of Angels, Rite of Replication, Green Sun Zenith, Genesis Wave. Caller of the Untamed 2 does a great job if apparently one Ulamog is not enough for you. There are obviously more cards in Magic that can do what we need in each of these card types, but these are a good selection of some of the newer and most commonly found in cubes. As you may have already guessed, this archetype cross-pollinates well with other archetypes looking for similar cards. The big creatures that we are talking about here, and others not named, will work really well in the Fatty Cheat archetype, as it wants to utilise both a bit of ramp and those creatures to cheat into play as early as possible. Reanimator is also another archetype that will find a home for a fair few of those big game-ending creatures as perfect targets to reanimate. If you try to support tribals in your cube, Elves will have many uses for the spells named here, especially with the inclusion of a lot of the mana ramp elves that I haven't mentioned. Last of all, the Wildfire archetype will utilise cards like Primeval Titan, Sakura Tribe Elder, and the Mana Rocks to create a solid board presence, and then using Wildfire, leaving the opponent ideally with 0 permanents on the board, while you get to keep your threats and mana sources in play, so plenty of crossover here with many archetypes. So in summary, this handy table will be a rough guide to what we have already talked about in this video. Feel free to pause the video and use it as a handy reference for how to support the archetype in your cubes. There may well be some more cards that will help support this archetype in all power levels of cube, so feel free to put these in the comments section below for the other viewers to see. I really enjoy this archetype in cube, it's really fun to play and can often be very rewarding. If you like the idea of ramping up to be able to play massive game ending creatures as quickly as possible and continue to do so for further turns, then this may well be for you. If this is something you like the look of and haven't supported it yet, it's really straightforward to incorporate it into your cube and add another dimension to your gameplay. In the next episode of Inside the Cube, we are going to be taking a look at another very fun archetype in the form of Spells Matter, so definitely stay tuned for that. I'd like to again thank the Manabase for sponsoring this video. Definitely do check them out at themanabase.com, as all of your format needs will be covered from Pauper to Limited and Cube. Pauper Ponderings with Austin is some really fun content, and he's very informative on the format. As I've smashed past 1,000 subscribers, there is a Q&A video up on the channel, so if you haven't checked it out already, there will be a card on the screen now and a link in the description below for you. If you enjoyed the video, hit that like button, share it, and hit that subscribe button if you haven't already for new videos every Tuesday and Friday. Don't forget to hit that notification button as well to know when each video is uploaded. With your support, we can really help the channel to grow. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.